see, in your books, there's a lot of references to kindness very early.
It actually started for me very early in my life. My earliest memory was when I was 4 years old. I'm remembering my dad tucking me into bed every single night.
Yeah.
And empowering me to believe that anything is possible. My dad was a dreamer like me. But when I use the word dreamer, I'm using it in the positive sense. Not like, oh yeah, you're a dreamer. Many people would tell that to me in that type of way. And they would also tell it to my father with the things that he would anything that he would do. He always went for larger things. And he always empowered me to believe that anything is possible. But from a very young age, I believed that there was something major I was meant to do in my life. That there was something I was meant to do to bring people together in this world. So something to mention is I've had always a very close connection with God. It was always a very personal thing for me.
Okay.
I know I don't talk about it often when it comes to the organization, and there's a reason why. Is because I don't ever want to isolate anybody. Because people may believe in God, and they may not believe in God, or they may not believe what I believe, but that's fine. Because I accept people for who they are and what it is that they believe. But I never want people to think that their journey has to be the same as mine. For me, I always had that strong connection. It was instilled within me by my dad, and I felt that there was something major that, in a sense, God had intended for me to do and to bring into this world kindness. To unite people in a way like never before. Never understanding why animosity exists in this world. Why? Why does hatred exist? Why do people hate so strongly? You know, where does it come from? I have to say, I've definitely experienced those feelings.
Okay.
And not understanding actually where they come into existence from. Being able to continuously ask that question, that was something that was on my mind ever since I was young. That when I would see, even if I would see the news, and I would see bad things happening, I felt it. I really felt it in my heart of hearts. It hurt. I felt pain.
Okay.
And I believe that I was meant to do something to bring people together. So it was a journey from when I was a kid, but it continued through my life.
Okay. And why kindness? Why not goodness? What's the difference between kindness and goodness and niceness?
That's a really great question. Kindness, in my opinion, is really a state of being. It's not an action. It's not, people sometimes associate kindness with an action. It's something that you do, but you don't do kindness. It's not like you say, oh yeah, I do kindness on Mondays and Wednesdays, from 4 to 5. It's not an action. A person may go and volunteer and do charity work. But does that mean that they're kind? Sure, it's a great action what they've done. Sure, that was a great thing. But kindness isn't just in the action, it's how we see the world. But it has to begin with how we see ourselves. Because if we don't see ourselves as being significant and unique, as bringing something important to this world, as mattering, then how can we see other people as being unique and significant? How can we then place value on others if we don't yet place it on ourselves? So when we're engaged in kindness, and again, like I'm saying, it's the simple things, it's not these actions or these big gestures. It's the way that we see people, the way that we talk to people, whether it be somebody that is the president of a company or the guy that's cleaning the floors in that company. The way that we interact with people and how we make them feel when we look at them. To me, that's living kindness. And when we're engaged in that, when we're engaged in kindness, we catch a glimpse of our potential. Because when we're giving, in that moment, we actually see we're validated for the right reasons. When you make somebody smile, why does it make you feel good? Because you're like, wow, I just made that person smile. I just made that person's day. Your validation now comes from something that's much deeper, not based on these materialistic things.
Does there have to be a validation?
What's that?
Does there have to be a validation?
I think that that's what people search for more than anything in this world, is they're searching for purpose. Everyone wants to feel that they matter. Everyone wants to feel that sense of purpose.
Purpose, yeah.
And to be seen. To be seen and to have purpose. We all want to feel that. So we're looking for validation. What's going to give us that purpose? We don't realize that it's not this external thing. It's not something that we have to pursue. It's something that's within us. It's living inside of us. So it's us becoming what's already inside of us. It's bringing it from the inside out, as opposed to something that we're pursuing. Oh, when I get this amount of money, or when I get that job, or when I do this, that's when I'm going to be happy. But happiness comes from within. So when a person is engaged in kindness and they see their value, that it's not based on this materialistic thing, it's just based on who they are. Just by being who you are. You can, without any titles, without any bells and whistles, you impact people's life. Just because you're living and breathing. Just because you're breathing in this world, you can impact people.
So can you be kind to people without actually being part of them?
100%. Because like we're saying, kindness is sort of like a lens in which you see the world. So what you just described, right? You were watching something. You're watching something take place and you're being filled with this sense of happiness, right?
Okay, yeah.
So just the way that you look at whatever scene that you're looking at, the way that you're looking at it through the lens of kindness. You're looking at it with a positive lens.
Okay.
So when we do something, for example, whenever we act, we also inspire or impact the people that are watching how we're acting. In the short film that I had done for the organization, Kindness Boomerang, right?
That's a nice one.
It shows one act of kindness going from one person to the next. There's no dialogue in that video. There's a reason. I didn't create dialogue on purpose.
Okay.
And the reason was because kindness transcends language. It transcends race, it transcends religion, it transcends ethnicity. It transcends all of those differences that we call out to be important, all those labels. It's an energy. It's an energy that gets passed one person to the next. And how does it get passed? It gets passed through the eyes, because the eyes are truly the window to the soul of a person.
Okay.
And so each and every interaction that happened in that film, there was a transfer of that energy from one person to the next just by the connection of their eyes.
I need to look at that again.
Even though they didn't say a word, but there's something that they transferred over. But here's the exciting thing. There were two scenes in that film that had nothing to do with one person receiving and then therefore getting the energy and wanting to give it forward. Usually, right, if somebody's kind to you, they're passing this energy. Now you take that energy and now you pass it forward. But there were two scenes in that short film in which it was the people that watched, the people that were witnessing the kindness, that saw it, were impacted and wanted to take part in it. And those two people were, one was the hot dog vendor and one was the flower girl. So what happened with the hot dog vendor? This man who was just helped by another man, he was taking his suitcase out of his car, he's just moving into a new neighborhood. He's taking his suitcase out, it's very heavy, and this business guy that normally probably wouldn't stop and he would continue to walk by, goes over and helps him lift the suitcase out of his car. Then this man finally takes the breath in and he sees a hot dog vendor and he's really hungry. So he goes on over to the hot dog vendor and he buys a hot dog. And as he turns his head slightly to the left, he sees this homeless man sitting on the street. And so he decides that he doesn't want to just take in this food and ingest it. He wants to be able to give that piece of that magic over. So he orders 2 hot dogs. Yeah. And he starts heading over to this man. And the hot dog vendor is seeing what's going on. The energy that's been happening on this one street, it's there, it's in the air. He sees what's happening. And normally, even though he wouldn't, because there's a backstory behind each of those characters, literally a page-long backstory. It's something to really share, because there's a page-long backstory behind each character.
I'd like to know it.
Yeah, I have it here. I'm serious. It's super, super amazing. He sees this, and he says, you know what? Even though this guy is generally a super cynical guy, he's been screwed over by many people in his life. So it's hard for him to see kindness and to accept it and to give it forward. But he feels some energy that's pure good, and he wants to take part. And so he goes ahead, takes a bottle of water and gives it to the guy and says, here you go. Pass this to the next guy. I see what you're doing. I want in. I see what you're doing. I want a part of it. Same thing happens with the flower vendor. She sees what's happening. That this young girl just went ahead and bought this bouquet of flowers to give to this old lady that's sitting by the restaurant. There's a deep story behind there. The old lady sitting at the restaurant, she's sitting there alone. Right next to her, on the table next to her, is another old woman with a couple of her grandchildren. The thing you don't know about this old lady sitting alone is that she was very dedicated to her job as she was growing old. as she was growing up. Very dedicated. She loved children. She was a teacher. She loved kids with all her heart. And so because she was so dedicated to her work, she didn't end up finding her soulmate until later on in life.
Okay.
But she wanted children. Her whole life she wanted children, to be a mother. She finally married her husband, and they hoped to have 3 kids. And her husband gave to her a bracelet with 3 charms on it, one to give to each one of their 3 children when they would have them. Unfortunately, she married very late in life and wasn't able to have children. And so she grew old without being able to ever have children. Her husband had passed away just a year before on that exact day.
So she's a real person.
That she was sitting right there at that restaurant.
Yes.
It was the exact day. And there she is looking at that charm bracelet, seeing this woman with her grandkids and knowing that she's never going to have that joy. That young girl picked up on something because that energy was just passed to her. And so she went ahead, got that bouquet of flowers. But the flower vendor, seeing what was happening, said the same thing. I want him. That's the beauty of what we do. When we take action, we're not only impacting the person in which we're doing it for, but we're impacting everybody that's witnessing it. That's the beauty. So it's possible, yes, in a sense, to want it like they did, want to take part and get involved, or even to watch it from a distance and still be impacted, because you never know what that person is going to maybe do in their next interaction. When you watch these children playing, right? Mm-hmm. What do you feel? What did you feel?
Just the joy, the energy of them.
You felt joy and you felt energy. Let me ask you a question now. Moving forward into the next interaction you would have that day, do you think your interaction would be more positive?
Probably, yeah.
Because and you didn't even have to take part in it. Little did those children know, or those people know, that just by them being them, mm-hmm. they've impacted you, and not only impacted you, but they've impacted every single person that you're going to come into contact with. Think about how amazing that is. The amount of people's lives that we can impact, that we can touch, that we can influence, just by us being us, irregardless of everything else that we look to pursue. The things that we look at, whether it be the money, or the house, or the materialistic things, or the social media following, or the fame, or the fortune. This is just natural. And it gives us a sense of purpose and meaning like none of that other stuff ever will. That's the problem. You don't do kindness. You don't do it. You live it. You embody it. You embrace it with every part of you. It's natural. If it's something forced, if it's something like you have to prepare to do, then that's weird. Because kindness is in every single, it's a decision you make at every single second of every single day. It's in everything. When you walk down the street, when you're talking to people, when you're coming into a new building and you see the security guard, or you're speaking to your parents. Does that mean that everyone has to be perfect at every moment? No, of course not. We're human beings. We all have our times when things are tough or we're not at our best, but that's okay. That's okay. That's a different thing. But not to use kindness, to use it as a mask when really there's a lot of unkind things happening behind the scenes. Personally, I never approach kindness from that way. I actually approach everything from people looking at what they've already accomplished and already done and working off of positivity. Because working off of feelings of guilt or negativity or where you aren't, that's only going to lead you down a bad path. You should never do something good from a negative place. It taints it with negativity.
Is there a kindness that's beyond individuals? Can you have a kind society when the individuals are not necessarily kind?
Can you have a kind society when the individuals are not necessarily
Because
kind?
we've seen in the past, it ended up with World War II, where people were kind but the regime was unkind. Can it be the opposite? Can you have people who are not necessarily kind but the whole system is kind?
Personally, I don't think that that's possible. The reason I say that is that the whole is the sum of its parts. So if people are not individually kind, even if there is a system in place, there's no respect for that system.
It's not just, in that couple, it's not a system, it's actually their whole being. It's an interaction between what they know, their instincts, the situation. So there's no system, there's no reason, it's not a government, but the group is kinder than each individual taken separately.
Well, that's a different story. Whether the group can be kinder than each individual, in my opinion, that is possible. But if there is no kindness within each individual, then I can't see you being able to have a society that is kind. So
absolutely,
I'll tell you,
no kindness. There has to be some kindness initially. Yes.
Here's what I'll tell you. There was a kindness perception index done back in 2015. I don't know if you know about this.
No, but no.
So let me tell you about this. So recently, I was appointed as the CEO of Kindness USA. What is Kindness USA? I'll explain to you. It's really an entity under a company called DreamStore.me. So DreamStore.me, this is a profitable company. Their main premise is that anything that a society truly wants can be financed and achieved. That's their premise. Now I'll explain to you what that means. I'll give you a bit more backstory behind DreamStore.me and Kindness USA, but I want to really get to the Kindness Perception Index, which is the whole point of this. What they did is, so I'll actually explain DreamStore.me first. What is the concept behind it? So DreamStore.me comes and says, well, why is it that we place more value on a physical commodity than we do on social change issues? Why do we place more value on this Sharpie, on this marker, than we place on social change issues like education or justice or kindness? Why is that? Why are social change issues treated like a second-class citizen? So what's the concept? The idea is if I went into a store and I needed a marker, I go ahead, I take the marker, I give them the money, right? And I make the exchange. I feel very good. I feel very good about my purchase, right? I'm not resentful of this purchase. It feels very good to me. I got something, I gave them money for it, I'm happy. All right, well, why can't we package kindness like this? Or education or justice. What do I mean by that? The concept is, with Kindness USA, okay, they did a kindness perception index within the US in the year 2015, and what they found was that 75% of adults, this is roughly adults within the US, okay, believe that they are kind, 75%. However, only 25% of people within the US, that's roughly 50 million people in the US, perceive that they're living in a kind society. Now, there's a lot of details in this index, and I'm more than happy to share it with you. It's on the DreamStore.me website. Okay. Now, the goal behind Kindness USA is to increase kindness perception within the US from 25% to 80% by the year 2027. Okay? 75% of people are perceiving that they're living in an unkind society. Only 25% of people are perceiving that they're living in a kind society.
Yeah.
Now, what's the concept? How does it work? So, looking at it as an investment like any other investment, the most important thing for something to come into fruition is people proclaiming that they want it. Supply and demand. This is the basis of economics. When people show that they want something, when there's more demand, so now there's going to be the supply. So, the goal is to raise $1 billion, with a B, $1 billion in dream futures. What's a dream future? It's somebody saying, I want a kinder USA, and here's what I'm willing to do for it. If, and only if, it's a conditional statement, if and only if by the year 2027, kindness perception increases from 25% to 80%, I'm going to give $100, $1,000, $10,000, whatever it may be. Person determines it. The question we're asking a person is, what is a kinder USA worth to you? What is this marker worth to you, right? What is a kinder USA worth to you? Now, if a person comes and says, okay, well, if the USA is actually going to be able to increase in kindness perception by that much, that's worth to me $100. They're not giving the money right now. No money is exchanged at all. They're simply ordering a dream future. They're proclaiming that they want it. That in itself will perpetuate in wheels to go in motion. Now, when you raise $1 billion in dream futures, that means, wow, there's a major want. There's a major demand for this. Now you go to the investors. The investors, these are highly qualified people that are risk takers. They are great at making assessments. An investment, just like any other investment. They come and say, okay, we have $1 billion in pledges of people wanting a kind of USA. They take the money to put behind it. So I'm going to give $150 million. Now, Kindness USA, the entity, okay, now utilizes those funds to do what? To seek out the best doers, whether it be organizations or individuals, people that are actually committed towards infusing kindness in the positive way. The greatest and most dynamic doers within the US to help them do so. Why? Because organizations, for example, like Life Vest Inside, we're operating on no dollars. Literally, shoestring budget. Left my job 6 years ago,
Right.
Haven't taken a salary in 6 years, invested all my savings into it. Look at how much we've done with no money. Imagine if we had some money. And I'm not the only one. There are many other people and organizations like this that have the same thing. Now, the influx of this funding is going to be done in a way where, as the funding comes in, kindness perception will increase. Now, let's say come the year 2027, and kindness perception increases, but it only increases to 79% as opposed to 80%. So now let's evaluate. Individuals, people within the US are happier. No money has to exchange hands. They don't have to now make the pledge. They don't have to give it because we didn't hit 80%. The investors are not so happy, but we're happier as a country. The investor understands the risk that they're taking. Now, if kindness perception hits 80%, people in the US are happy, we're happy, and the investors are happy. It's a win-win for everybody. It's completely changing the way that we look at the dollar, that we look at capital, and utilizing it to actually bring about these social change in a very powerful way. So why am I bringing this up? The concept idea behind kindness perception, right? People can perceive that they are kind. You ask people, are you kind? No one's going to say to you, they're not kind. Or very few people are going to tell you. Few people will tell you that. Because you hear kindness, it's a broad term. It's a very broad term.
Yeah.
But like you said, the devil is in the details, right? It's the details that differentiate. The idea now is, even though 75% of people think that they're kind, only 25% of people are perceiving that they're living in a kind society. That's a huge gap. That's a huge gap. I'm not telling you, go be kind. No, that doesn't make any sense. All my job is, I have one job, to help people see how amazing they are, to help them see the beauty that's within them, to help them see the things that are inside of them that are still unlocked that they don't see within themselves. If I can help a person just see how valuable they are, I've done everything that I can. Because now, the minute a person now believes in themselves, imagine the innovations that will then continue to be created. Imagine the resources. If each person feels like they could be a giver in this world, that givers are not just the people that have money in their pockets. They're not just the millionaires that you're knocking on their doors for money. But a giver could be the person sitting on the street with not $1 to their name. If that is the goal of this organization is to increase the pool of givers in this world by showing everybody that we each have something unique to give. It doesn't always come from our pocket, but we all have something to give. Do that. We have the resources and the manpower to be able to fix and to remedy, not just to put a band-aid on, but to remedy every issue this world is experiencing. Whether it be disease, whether it be hunger, whether it be war. I know it sounds crazy, it sounds so lofty, but it's not a small goal to increase the pool of givers. To empower each person to believe that there's something that they can contribute. And the only way to do that is to be able to look at the people that are on low and be able to help lift them up, to show them that they also have a place. Because it says, there's a quote by Benjamin Disraeli, the greatest gift you could give to another is not to share your riches. It's to reveal to him his own. And I believe that this is where the world is moving towards, more of a consciousness of our interconnectedness, of how interconnected we are. Because as time is going on, we're seeing just how small the world really is, and how what we do on one side of the world, it impacts people on the other side in a tremendous way.
Correct. Yeah.
We're all interconnected. So if one person is bleeding, it hurts all of us because we are an entity, just as a body. You cut your finger, it's not just your finger, your whole body, you just feel off. If we come to understand that when that person is down, when that person is not at their maximum potential, it's affecting our entire body. It's in fact affecting our entire system. I believe that we're moving towards that consciousness because collaboration is the key to success. There is no, and believing that when one has to be up, somebody else has to be down, that's also believing that there is a scarcity. There's like that scarcity mindset, but there's abundance in this world. There is enough. If only we come to understand that and see that, we can lift each other up and be stronger as one full body. But greed is a really terrible thing. There's nothing that bothers me. Greed and arrogance, these are the two things I can't. There's no room for greed and arrogance in this world. When greed and arrogance enter into this world, peace and prosperity leave. Can you use,
if anything is in the human mind, it has served an evolutionary purpose. That helps humanity survive.
Okay.
So is there any way to use greed and arrogance in a constructive way? I know I can turn shame into humility. That's fear. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But is there a way to actually use, because
it's funny saying
you're building all your strengths around, but I'm actually starting to lose some of them, so I actually have to use my weaknesses.
So I have to tell you, what you're saying is 100% on the mark. It's the same thing, it's the same argument like I said before. You can use this for the good and for the bad. Everything can be used for the good and for the bad.
Yeah.
There is certain characteristics that can be connected to the two that are good. However, you have to be super careful because there is a fine line.
Yeah.
There is a fine line. The concept of, again, in my opinion, confidence is the opposite of arrogance that looks the same. Okay? Arrogance basically means that you believe. So, in a sense, I don't believe that it's possible, but at the same time it is. It's two sides of the same coin, put it that way. Okay?
Okay.
Confidence and arrogance are two sides of the same coin. Whereas confidence is the strong part, is the good part, and arrogance is the negative. But the psyche, the parts of it that are good, it's the same, it's connected. What do I mean by this? So, a person that is arrogant will, in a sense, again, like I said, it comes from weakness, but it's the belief that I have brought myself to where I am, not understanding that we are all interconnected. Meaning the successes I have are because of me. That's arrogance.
Okay.
And it's based on things that are not true, because no one's success is because of them. The positive of arrogance is the confidence, is that strength, is that passion, is that drive. That's the same thing. It comes from the same element. That passion, that drive, that commitment, that desire, that want. But it's keeping in your mind the fact that you are not alone. That you can only be doing what you're doing if everything is working in perfect symmetry. Because then you see everybody. You see each person. You don't just see yourself. You don't just see your focus. You see the big picture and you understand how it contributes to the larger whole.
Yeah.
But those tendencies of that arrogant it's the same. It's just using it for the good or using it for the bad. Greed comes from insecurity.
Yes. Yeah.
Comes from insecurity. Why is a person greedy? If they have everything that they need, it's the fear that they're going to lose it. It's the fear of losing what you've already had. But if you understand that you've been given exactly what you need to accomplish what you need to accomplish, there's no need to, that greed goes away. Mm-hmm. If you understand that you've been given a suitcase with the resources that you need, if you're going to be jealous of somebody else's suitcase, of what's in their suitcase, and always look at their suitcase, how come they have that, how come they have this, how come they have that, then you're now actually looking into your own suitcase and understanding why you've been given the skills that you've been given. You've been given them for a reason because you're supposed to utilize them to fulfill your specific mission, to fulfill your specific piece of the puzzle. If you're going to want to be the other guy always, who's going to be you? Who's going to fill your piece? There's no superfluous people in this world. I believe that wholeheartedly. There's not extra people. Oh, there's an extra person, you know. No, there's no such thing as an extra person. Every person that is here for a very specific reason, with something that they can bring that only they can bring. That no matter what I try and do, I can try to do everything. I'm never going to be able to accomplish what they're meant to accomplish. Because that's not my toolbox. That's not it. So I always say, when we wake up in the morning, and we breathe in, and air fills our lungs, and we're alive, that's an indicator that regardless of the mistakes we've done yesterday and the day before, that we have air in our lungs today. We woke up because there's something that we are meant to bring into this world today. That's positive.
That's a nice thought.
Even if it's small. And not looking at the negative picture of yesterday.
But what can you trade in for kindness?
What do you mean trade in?
Well, what weakness can produce kindness?
Oh, okay, well, if a person, in terms of kindness, if a person allows themselves to be taken advantage of, sometimes people can associate the two. They're like, oh, well, I'm going to be kind, so I'm going to be overgiving. But I can guarantee you that when you dissect their giving, it's the giving from weakness that we were talking about earlier. It's the giving of sacrifice. It's not the giving of abundance. It's the giving of sacrifice. Maybe it's the giving of acceptance, or them not feeling secure, so they're trying to make a good impression. They're giving too much to somebody, which can sometimes scare people away. Yes. There's a way that we have to give. There's a way that we have to give. And when we're giving without giving to ourselves, that's also dangerous. Because when we stop giving to ourselves and caring about our health, I'm talking to myself right now.
Yes, I got that.
Talking to myself. When we forget to give to ourselves, to give ourselves the time, to give ourselves that break, to allow ourselves to rest, to not put too much, to not put so much pressure on ourselves. Pressure is good, but to an extent. When we're so tough and critical with ourselves, so much, and we're unkind to ourselves, the giving that we give can become dangerous because it can turn into giving from a feeling of resentment. If we don't receive, it has to go both ways. If we don't also receive, and we don't allow ourselves to receive, the giving that we give can become resented. We can resent it. And we can become resentful. And we can feel like we're just being drained, and people are draining from us.
Yeah.
And we're left on the floor to rot. And that's dangerous because somebody that could be a great hero, it's like the difference between a hero and a villain. A hero and a villain are very similar. But something can turn them to be from one to the other. And that's why it's important to also give to the givers of the world. The givers of the world need a lot of giving because they need that fuel to keep on giving. They also need to be able to know how to receive, which is sometimes also very difficult. Sometimes people that are, in their heart of hearts, givers, have a very hard time receiving.
Could it be because they're not giving from the right place?
It could be. That's one option. It could be also that they feel guilty for receiving. And that could become the way that they've come to think of giving. But somebody once told me something, it's something I'll never forget. And I remind myself of it all the time. And he said to me, how do you feel when you give? I said, I feel amazing. I love to give to people. He said, then why would you steal? Why would you rob another person by feeling that way when they give to you? Why would you rob someone of that feeling by not allowing them to give to you? If you know how good giving feels. And I said, wow. I never realized that. That it's important as a giver to allow others to give to you, because that makes them feel just as good. It makes them have that sense of feeling that you felt. I was out to dinner this past Thursday night with a parent of a former student of mine that I've stayed in touch with. And so we haven't hung out in a while, so we were going to go and catch up and have a dinner. So we went out for dinner, and we're sitting at dinner, and you know, it was the end of the night, and the bill came, and I always wanted, like, I want to pay. And she said, no. I said, what do you say? I said, no. She goes, no, you're not paying, I'm treating you. I said, please, why? I said, well, why? Can't you, like, why? And I kept saying, why? She said, Orly, you're doing something that myself and so many other people wish that we could do to the capacity that you do it. But we can't. She says, I do things in my own way. Give me the opportunity to be a part of what you're doing by giving you this. So I said, okay, you win.
Yeah, okay, nice.
It's hard, but it's important. It's important to do, to receive, to allow ourselves to receive, because then our giving becomes even stronger.